Education is the foundation on which the current administration is building what it envisions as an economically strong, technologically advanced nation with strong social services that allows all of its citizens to benefit from its vast resources and enjoy that good life. This is influenced not only in its budgetary allocation this year of $43.1 billion to the sector, but its commitment to ensuring that the problems faced by the sector are tackled at the core beginning from early childhood through to university. This week in Government in Action, we will take a closer look at the education policies and how it has influenced action in this sector. President David Granger, since taking office in 2015, has emphasized the Every Child in School policy. Even as government works to create the environment where, regardless of the economic situation, Guyanese children can attend school, the president has also called on every Guyanese in communities, neighborhoods and villages across the country to adopt this policy as our mantra and do whatever we can to ensure every child gets to school and stays in school. Education, the head of state believes, will unlock the potential of young people to be not just employable, but job creators themselves, who can innovatively use the country's resources to build their own wealth.
We want, in our entire education system, a function that will produce citizens of quality, citizens who will be happy to remain here in Guyana to build our bountiful, our beautiful nation. We want a system that will extend access to the information superhighway to support the education of our entire nation. The Constitution of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, our supreme law, prescribes in Article 27, and I quote from our Constitution, every citizen has the right to free education from nursery to university, as well as at non-formal places where opportunities are provided for education and training. It is the duty of the state to provide education that will include curricula designed to reflect the cultural diversities of Guyana and disciplines that are necessary to prepare students to deal with social issues and to meet the challenges of the modern technological age.
The government of Guyana has and continues to implement various programs at all levels to ensure that education services are accessible to all, and those in difficult economic situations are not left behind. The mid-year report recently released by the Ministry of Finance said that government continues to increase the catchment of the school feeding program. The Hot Meal Initiative currently reaches 22,475 students across 165 schools in the hinterland, and by the end of 2017, it is expected that an additional 2,616 students from 47 hinterland schools, nursery and primary, will benefit. The breakfast initiative under this program is ongoing in 36 schools on the coastline, and expansion will continue in the second half of the year as well. All these are in addition to the President's 5Bs initiative, which is aimed at providing boats, buses, bicycles, breakfast and books to school children, giving way to easier access to school and other basic school needs for many students across the country. The 5Bs initiative quickly became a widespread success, gaining momentum and donations from the business community and allowing the administration to take the program all across the country. President Granger has said that the initiative will pay dividends for the development of the regions in which they operate, to improve education, to improve access to jobs, and to assist the youth in participating in enterprise. To support the Every Child in School policy, Minister of Education Ms. Nicolette Henry said that the ministry is ramping up programs that ensure school attendance.
We have home visits and truancy campaigns are conducted with the intention of keeping children in school, Parents are made aware of the importance of sending children to school regularly and punctually. Parents are also made aware of the consequences of not taking responsibility of sending their children to school and the consequences and penalties in keeping with the Education Act, which is Chapter 3901. Special coaching and counseling sessions are also implemented, and in special cases, particular attention is paid to individual students and parents.
The development of a quality education system is the result of many factors, and following consultations across the country, it was recognized that facilities with adequate space, clean water, and proper sanitation facilities, support services which include school feeding and other forms of economic assistance, screening programs, and welfare services are necessities. These and others prompted the government, through the Education Ministry, to implement programs to ensure that Guyanese students are able to be in schools. The limited ability of Guyanese students to grasp mathematics had prompted the Guyana government to develop a 7-point proposal known as the Program for Emergency Education Refer, PEER or PEER, to address this deficiency. And while findings have shown that from 2016 to 2017, the pass rate of students sitting for mathematics at the NGSA has risen from 13% to 45%, the reality still remains that more than half of all students lack the basic foundation needed to excel at the secondary level. During the first half of this year, PEER expended $166 million. $66 million has been spent on training, $62 million on learning materials, and $40 million on the hiring of coordinators and monitors. With regard to training, 548 grade 6 teachers, 452 head teachers, and 51 coordinators and monitors were trained in the area of content and methodology during the first half. PEER is expected to serve as part of the series of planned interventions aimed at improving the outputs and outcomes of the education sector. According to the Finance Ministry's mid-year report, preliminary analysis of the results from the 2017 NGSA has indicated that efforts at all levels, including government, community, and family, have begun to result in some improvement. While PEER is a targeted intervention, government began the process of systematic overhaul with the rolling out of the Guyana Education Sector Improvement Project, GSIP. The initial package, as part of the education reform process, will include integrated curriculum reform of mathematics at the primary level. This process is expected to be repeated for the mathematics at the secondary level and English at the primary level, drawing in lessons from the initial phase. At the tertiary level, focus will be on strengthening teaching capacity. The ministry also undertook a massive public relations campaign, seeking the involvement of all stakeholders, including teachers and parents, as Chief Education Officer Acting Mr. Marcel Hudson explained.
Because the literature is clear. Where there's parental involvement, where there's maximum support from the communities or the community, education tend to be in a better position in terms of delivery. And so we had what we call text blasts. And some of you may not have known that these things actually happened. And this is one of the things that we intend to do. Sometimes we sell ourselves short. We had text blasts, we had street clinics. Persons went into the streets. We were in villages, certain areas. We had mathematics clinics and so forth. We had stickers placed on cars. We had radio advertisements.
Another critical component of this program includes the acquisition of resources such as books, charts, and games to make mathematics fun and easier to learn, and not as it is traditionally viewed as a burden or a subject to be feared. The ministry described the response to these methods as amazing and credited the turning around to this new and improved system, which will be constantly reviewed and updated to meet the changing needs of Guyanese students across the 10 administrative regions. In addition, $125 million was allocated as consultation fees to the Caribbean Examinations Council, CXC, for performance improvement at the primary level. a contract to provide technical assistance in the preparation of assessment papers for grades 2, 4, and 6, and the provision of professional consultancy services for capacity building for officials of the Ministry of Education.
Teachers, subject specialists, the test development officers develop the test items with the technical guidance of the Caribbean Examinations Council. The team sought to address key areas such as item construction, weighing of the items, sampling, and other psychometric elements. Candidates were tested in 4 subject areas, namely mathematics, English, science, and social studies.
Another major goal of the administration is to reduce the disparity between the hinterland and coastland as it relates to the delivery of quality education, as emphasized by President Granger. This falls in line with the head of state's policy position of ensuring infrastructural links between the hinterland and the coastland, equitable access to services of the state across the country, and equal opportunities for all Guyanese.
As president of all Guyana, I would like to see that in every single region of this country, we have a secondary school that could be described as top. Not only top 5, but the top 10. I'm afraid that if we do not correct this fault between coastal and hinterland, between Georgetown and rural areas, we will develop a form of educational apartness. And to use that horrible Dutch word that people of my generation are familiar with, educational apartheid. It means the same thing, actually. We must avert the danger of children being separated along lines of gender, along lines of social class, or along lines of geographical location.
The ministry's vision is for there to be improvements across the board, with students from Barima Waini Region 1, Kuyuni Mazaruni Region 7, Patara Sipironi Region 8, and Upper Takatu Upper Essequibo Region 9 showing improvement in all the subject areas. Minister Henry said the government has been working tirelessly to improve the educational landscape nationwide, adding that one of the first challenges that it faced and sought to address was that of the glaring inequality in the education sector. She explained that the problems facing the hinterland and other rural communities have to be looked at from a broad perspective, where the community, parents, teachers, students, and the ministry are involved. The Hinterland Education Improvement Program, HEIP, is geared at providing the quality of education in the hinterland as that on the coastland.
And we believe that with the implementation of this program, we will see improvement. So component 1 speaks to improving the quality of teachers' education in the hinterland, which will see us develop continuous professional development programs geared at addressing teachers' weakness and tailored to incorporate teaching in multi-grade settings.
Many students who hailed from hinterland communities have been struggling to obtain suitable marks for entry into secondary schools after completing the National Grade 6 Assessment, the NGSA. An analysis of data relative to the NGSA results for 2016 showed that the hinterland regions performed poorly at the examinations, and this, along with other factors, prompted the administration to call for an emergency intervention in the area of mathematics. But while the intervention targeted mathematics specifically, additional focus was placed on the other core areas, English, science, and social studies. The study conducted will serve as a baseline and once proven effective would be expanded across the country with the hope of bridging the existing gap.
Also, the curriculum will also have to be aligned with the view of ensuring that the national examination needs are also aligned with the community needs and relevant, and providing classroom materials and support. Component 3 more or less is improving physical facilities, and so that will see us improve infrastructure, particularly at dorms facilities and classroom space, and construction and rehabilitation of teachers' accommodation in the hinterland.
The Education Minister has accepted that these existing disparities have contributed significantly to the state of the country's education sector. But with ministerial intervention, teachers and monitors were recruited with the aim of reducing the challenges facing the students and teachers in the hinterland. These challenges included less classroom hours than those in the coastal regions due to the lack of trained teachers, limited teacher accommodation, and insufficient teaching aids. Given the findings of a comprehensive program launched in the hinterland, the Ministry of Education recognized that the situation in the Potaro-Siparuni region, or Region 8, was very poor. While the placement of trained teachers in those areas will address some of the problems, Minister Henry said it will not eradicate them entirely.
It's really to strengthen management and supervision in the hinterland. And that, of course, has to do with the support and training of education officers. It also touches to a great extent on communication, which would require improvement in facilities and equipment, and transportation also is important if you're speaking about supervision, and supervision would impact greatly on the issues of monitoring and evaluation. And I think every person who ever had anything to do with programs would know that the M&E component is perhaps the single most important one if you're talking about program results and achieving deliverables.
Speaking during the release of the 2017 NGSA results, Mr. Hodson said that it was recognized during the implementation of the emergency mathematics intervention that some of the schools in the hinterland operated under peculiar circumstances, prompting the ministry to conduct a diagnostic assessment with specialized treatment for schools there. The ministry also undertook a massive public relations campaign seeking the involvement of all stakeholders, including teachers and parents.
We trained over 1,000 teachers in the areas of content and methodology. Secondly, we facilitated fortnightly cluster meetings with private schools and the public schools. These meetings in the past would have been held once a month. But taking into consideration the urgency that we wanted to move, we decided that we would have created a community of learners where teachers benefited from the experiences of each other. And thirdly, there was a recruitment of mathematics coordinators and monitors for all schools. So we had special persons identified and paid substantially to monitor our schools to ensure that what we taught our teachers, those things were actually implemented in the classroom.
In addition, some hinterland communities, particularly indigenous communities, speak traditional languages, resulting in language barriers, which hinder either the students or teachers from the coastal regions from understanding. Minister Henry said the ministry is currently in the process of addressing this with plans to implement a language program where teachers and other educators would be trained in the indigenous languages to allow for better communication. On part 2 of this episode of Government in Action, we will look at the government's efforts aimed at increasing the number of trained teachers, the effective incorporation of information and communications technology, ICT, in teaching practices, the construction of ICT laboratories and provision of internet access at schools across Guyana, as well as the challenges at the primary, secondary, and tertiary levels, and steps to address these. I am Gomati Gangadin. Join us next week again. Goodbye.